The planet Cryon, a vast, frost-bound world ruled by monstrous blizzards, mystifying creatures, and horrifying predators. With temperatures averaging at just above negative 100 degrees Celsius, it is a very cold and hostile world. But how do its inhabitants survive the gnawing cold? Why do all the local predators seem to lean towards omnivory and not stick purely to eating meat? And why is life so seemingly sparse here? Hi, I'm Admiral Timothy Richards, and welcome to the Amanogawa. Join me, my Sentinel assistant Laylaps, and our vicious exomech Fluffy, as we explore the many worlds the universe of No Man's Sky has to offer. Welcome to the Voyages of the Amanogawa. Welcome to the first episode of the public NMS Biology Logs. This is Admiral and Expedition Head Timothy Richards signing in. Today, we'll be exploring the world of Cryon, a frozen snowball planet, home to some of the most resilient life forms I've ever seen in the galaxy. Our adventure begins at the Erickson Outpost, a newly founded base on Cryon, dedicated to the purpose of studying the flora and fauna therein. Having already been delayed by a quick trip to gather resources and having to engage in some quick, diplomacy with a pack of pirates, I was eager to begin exploring. Taking our hybrid exosuit, who the crew have lovingly named Fluffy, I set off. My mission was to discover the last two groups of life forms on Cryon, both cave creatures, according to orbital scans. And it wasn't long until I found one. This is the Spinkbeaver, named after the Sphinx from the speculative documentary The Future is Wild. The most widespread cave creature on Cryon, Spinkbeavers are a synapsid-class herbivore, about 1.6 meters or 5.3 feet in length. They're very docile and surprisingly intelligent, and as far as we can tell, spend their entire lives under the surface of the planet. According to the analysis visor, they have an unusual metabolism and chemically adapted blood, which upon further studies revealed to be an extremely endothermic metabolism and blood proteins that literally act as antifreeze, similar to some fish in the Antarctic on Earth. The combination of these two features, and the fact that they spend their entire lives in the cave systems of Cryon, makes it pretty much impossible for these creatures to freeze except in the most freezing of conditions. They make a living off of looking for roots from the above-ground trees and other cave flora to eat. While the explanation behind their high intelligence isn't fully understood, it's thought that the amount of sensory information they have to process plays a part in it. In fact, Spinkbeavers living in the near-pitch darkness of caves have some of the best sensory processing of any living thing, able to make connections and detect danger long before any other creature could. Upon studying a specimen brought back to the Amanogawa, our researchers determined that it has 3 organs with extremely sensitive touch receptors: the frills on its head, the knobbles on its back, and the beaver-like tail. They sense the air for changes in air pressure and air current, indicating the presence of a potential predator. In other words, they basically sense how other creatures make the air move. We soon discovered filming Spinkbeavers was rather tricky, as they have one final trick up their sleeve. They seem to be shockingly good at burrowing, literally disappearing into the walls as we approached them occasionally. It was only with the occasional bribe that we were able to film any at all. However, it's thought that the sensory data the Spinkbeavers have to deal with isn't the only reason they're highly intelligent. It's simply to be able to compete with another highly intelligent creature in the depths of Cryon, the Astako. The Astako is a Chelicerate-class subterranean predator and scavenger, the top predators of the subterranean depths. Spinkbeavers make up the majority of the prey they hunt. The Astako chase them for miles, watching them and thinking of the best way to hunt them. Being rarer and more reclusive than the Spinkbeavers, less is known about them, but our scientists have been able to uncover a few interesting facts about their lives. For starters, like the Spinkbeavers, they are highly intelligent creatures, perhaps even more so than the Spinkbeavers. This is thought to be because they are highly adaptable omnivores, scavenging for food wherever they can find it. While they are certainly the top predator of the caves, on the surface, they are merely opportunistic scavengers, like hyenas on Earth, stealing food from other predators' kills. Regardless of whether they hunted it themselves or stole it from other predators, they don't always immediately eat their catch. They have been documented using the cold climate of Cryon to their advantage, storing chunks of meat in food caches in the caves. Their sharp jaws, reminiscent of the jaws of Dunkleosteus from Earth's history, make the perfect tools for shearing through frozen meat. As the caves average at about a nippy negative 13 degrees Celsius, it makes a perfect place to freeze food for later. In fact, in some locations, food stores of Astakids have been discovered holding literal metric tons of frozen food, which are shared between all the local Astakids. Not particularly territorial, they often share grounds to live and hunt in, even occasionally sharing food with each other. They're certainly nowhere near as social as Earth primates, but show a high amount of social prowess amongst each other. In fact, it's very possible these could be the beginnings of the next intelligent life form in the galaxy. Leaving the caves, I find a lone young Straggletooth stranded in a large earthen chamber. Unsure of where its mother was or how it got there, I dug a small hole in the wall with Fluffy's terrain manipulator to let it free. Straggleteeth are small, furry, bipedal predators found roaming the plains and forests on Cryon. Despite being a determined predator, they are one of the smallest creatures on the planet, at a meager 1.4 meters tall. While they aren't pack hunters in the same vein as lions or wolves on Earth, they do occasionally come together to hunt larger prey in the same manner as modern crocodiles or Komodo dragons. In fact, their hunting strategy is not too dissimilar to how modern paleontologists think dromaeosaurs or raptors may have hunted, usually hunting on their own, but occasionally hunting larger prey in uncoordinated packs. Straggleteeth hunt by following the paths of plant eaters on Cryon, stalking them for days or weeks on end, or even longer sometimes. Where there is prey on Cryon, a group of Straggleteeth probably isn't that far behind. The name Straggletooth comes from the fact that they seem to straggle behind larger prey, often chasing them down over long distances. Some Straggleteeth even seem so desperate to make a kill that they have been documented chasing down the much larger and faster Theridigits, usually to no avail. Is this a hunting strategy to wear down larger prey, or simply just the desperation of a starving predator? Despite being such determined predators, the Straggletooth population seems to be struggling. As of the discovery of Cryon, they are an endangered species. While we do not yet have enough research to tell conclusively, the current theory is that they simply aren't very good at hunting the large herbivores of modern-day Cryon. In the past, Cryon's herbivores were likely smaller and easier to catch, and thus the Straggleteeth were able to hunt them down with relative efficiency. However, the local species of herbivores seem to have become bigger as a way to avoid being eaten, or perhaps as a defense against the cold, something which, for unknown reasons, the Straggleteeth couldn't do, possibly because that would put them into competition with the other large predator of the planet, the Cryovore. But more on them later. As a result of this shift in the balance of the ecosystem, Straggleteeth have responded by developing more adaptable diets, often getting by stealing food from other creatures or foraging for plant matter. In fact, most, if not all, Straggleteeth today are opportunistic omnivores, less dependent on the prey animals they once ate exclusively. Speaking of prey animals, upon leaving the cave, I came across a mixed herd of the two main prey animals on Cryon. First creature I noticed was an Alcovore, a large synapsid-class herbivore with a taste for rotting fruit. Alcohol freezes at a much lower temperature than water, at around a negative 114 degrees Celsius. However, that happens to be only a few degrees below the average temperature on Cryon, about negative 94 degrees Celsius. In fact, during a blizzard, the temperature goes even lower, a few degrees below the freezing point of alcohol. This makes rotten fruit a tasty, crunchy treat for the Alcovores, who have specially adapted teeth to be able to crunch through frozen fruit. As for how the fruits ferment in the cold, it seems due to a special type of bacteria that somehow does not freeze in freezing cold weather, perhaps by using a special antifreeze compound, or maybe even because they have a different base liquid than water, such as alcohol. The exact methods are currently not known, more research is required. In fact, it seems that these bacteria have an important role in the digestive and immune systems of the Alcovores. They seem to have two main effects. They seem to help digest their food once consumed, and they also seem to help keep the Alcovores from freezing, perhaps with the same method mentioned earlier. Or maybe simply just because they create more alcohol. To Earth creatures, alcohol has a tendency to make you feel warmer than you actually are, opening you up to the possibility of hypothermia. Alcohol also has the ability to impede your reason, in fact, it's quite famous for it. However, the Alcovores seem to be completely resistant to both these issues. In the former case, at least as far as the hypothermia part is concerned.
They are biologically designed to amplify the calming effects of alcohol within their bodies, so that these creatures are constantly seeking out their food to stay calm. Similarly, the amount of alcohol they consume raises their pain and cold tolerance, something alcohol also does to your body, although to a lesser degree. This way, they are able to use their fermented diet to keep them alive and comfy in the freezing weather. However, Alcovores aren't the only prey animal on Cryon. Meet the largest creature on the planet, the Theridigits. Theridigits, or Theridigs as they're sometimes called, are essentially the sauropods or elephants of this frozen world, traveling in herds anywhere from 3 to 4 individuals strong to well over multiple dozen. Much like the mammoths from the Ice Age on Earth, Alcovores are grazers, eating tall grasses and other things they can find, although they do also eat tree leaves from time to time, when they can find it. The reason they are so tall is to defend against Straggleteeth. It allows them to both outrun them and keep their vital organs away from their biting jaws. In fact, the Theridigits' increase in size is thought to be the reason why Straggleteeth switched to a more omnivorous diet. They're simply too large and too fast for Straggleteeth to reliably hunt. However, in spite of this, Theridigits also behave a lot like deer and gazelle. They are extremely flighty and will flee at the first sign of danger. Their long legs allow them to outrun most predators, except for the few weak and elderly individuals. But why would an animal this large be so flighty? We're about to find out. The following day, I set out in Fluffy to gather resources to expand our base. During my adventure, I was ecstatic to come across a Cryovore, the top predator of Cryon. Standing at about 2.5 meters tall, they are truly an impressive creature, reminiscent of the large theropod dinosaurs from the Mesozoic period on Earth. They are a Sauravian-class predator, with long, spindly fingers and green, bird-like feet. Mostly hunting in open areas, they have a similar hunting strategy to the aforementioned Straggleteeth, hunting alone most of the time, but occasionally hunting larger prey alongside others of their kind. The life of a Cryovore is short and brutal. They are born from clutches of hundreds or even thousands of eggs, 98 to 99% of which die within the first few hours or days due to the cold or simply predation. After that time, they grow rapidly, often even cannibalizing their siblings to support their rapid growth. Once they reach adulthood within about a week, they feed primarily upon Alcovores and the occasional Theridigit, recklessly hunting them. Surprisingly, Cryovores can't feel pain, or at least feel very little of it. They are designed to brutally keep themselves alive by recklessly hunting their prey. Because of this, most Cryovores don't survive past their first few hunts. It's thought that the immense amount of alcohol they consume from eating Alcovores is part of what keeps their pain tolerance so astonishingly low. Unsurprisingly, this lifestyle is leading to their extinction. The only way they've survived this long is by breeding as quickly as possible, but even this isn't holding out well for them. It's thought that recently, perhaps only over the past few million or even few thousand years, the planet has gotten even colder than it was, resulting in harsher, colder conditions. In fact, it seems every animal group on Cryon was hit by this event, as our orbital scans show that nearly every creature on this planet is low in number, being classified as rare. Now, as to how or why the planet cooled, we do not yet have enough data to speculate. But our theories include perhaps a shift in orbit or a decrease in greenhouse gases. However, a few creature groups have remained mostly unaffected. Meet the Pikeatres, a small flying creature found flying above the snowy landscapes of Cryon. At first glance, they look very similar to birds on Earth, except that they have large, bat-like fins and huge, abdomen-like tails. It is thought that their ancestors were actually more like fish or amphibians than birds or dinosaurs, and spent most of their time burrowing under the snow in the already colder regions of the planet. However, after Cryon froze over, they did well in the new environment, spreading all across it. Pikeatre chicks are completely flightless, much like their hypothetical ancestors, and spend most of their time burrowing through the snow. They essentially burrow through it with their wings, moving through it like strange winged snowworms. Strangest of all, Pikeatre chicks do not have lungs, unlike the adults. Instead, they bear gill-like structures, which they use to absorb gases from the melted snow and/or air around them. Adult Pikeatres eat mostly tough plant matter such as cuttlebulbs, their preferred food, whereas young Pikeatres mostly feed on plant roots and scavenged flesh, particularly from snag pines, a carnivorous pine tree-like plant native to the planet. Finally, they are also highly intelligent.
at least on par with the Spinkbeavers, and maybe even on par with some Astakids. As much as I love this planet, my time here is coming to an end. The pirate situation in my home system, Theridigits, is becoming far too severe and requires an immediate combat force. Preparing to leave the planet, I take one final look around at this wondrous world, wondering what else there is to discover. There's plenty I wasn't able to get to in this video, as it's getting long enough as it is. I wasn't even able to touch on the flora, such as the carnivorous snag pines or the heat-seeking cuttlebulbs. And in fact, the crew hasn't even discovered all of them yet. Scans show there's at least a handful left to be found. If you want to learn more about this planet, check out the website linked below. I'll be adding details as they come to the site. But that's all for now. My name is Admiral Timothy Richards, and you're following the Amanogawa Chronicles. Stay safe, have fun, and explore frequently. Until next time!